Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. Today I want to talk about an incident involving Romana Digiulo. If you don't know who this person is, this is the self-proclaimed Queen of Canada. Now, Canada does actually have a queen. It's Queen Elizabeth, and her role is basically ceremonial. She appears on money, she's referenced in the case name of criminal cases, but beyond that, she doesn't have any power in terms of, creating laws or anything like that. All she does is she sits in England and collects titles. So, in contrast, Ms. Digiulo thinks she's got all sorts of power. Her and her followers go around and issue pronouncements, and they warn people that they're going to be arrested and executed, which is not terribly nice behavior. A lot of her activities are things that would normally be set to yakety sacks, like when a bunch of her followers showed up at a police station and attempted to arrest the police station for the crime of being the police. And again, all of this would be a lot funnier if it wasn't for the fact that, first, she's got followers, and I don't know why. And second, when they're making these pronouncements and saying that they're going to execute people, that's a little concerning, right? This is not just sort of ordinary weirdo stuff. This is high-level weirdo stuff. So let's talk about this particular incident, which is she was driving around in her royal RV, and she was stopped by one of her loyal subjects, a construction worker who decided to express some thoughts about her monarchy by raising both middle fingers at her for an extended period, a couple of minutes, and ends up tearing a poster off of the front of her vehicle. Now, this is actually probably a criminal offense, the offense of mischief. But in the scheme of things, it's not the most serious of offenses. It is kind of funny that Ms. Digiulo and them get on the phone with the police right away, because weren't you just trying to arrest the police not long ago? I'm sure they'll be right out to help you out. I'm sure you're top of their list right now. That isn't to say that Ms. Digiulo shouldn't enjoy the protection of the police and so forth, because, she absolutely should if she's being wronged, if people are doing wrongdoing to her. So that is its own sort of consideration. Now, the thing I want to talk about here is that they posted some pictures during this incident, because they have a very online following. And those pictures, I'm going to bring them up here. So this first one here, you can see this is Ms. Digiulo. You can see she's wearing her royal crown, and she is in the royal chariot, that RV. Now, behind her is what is very clearly a gun case. Now, of course, it's closed, so we can't tell the contents, but it's reasonable to think that there might be a gun in there. That is a reasonable concern. And then that is bolstered by this second photo that was posted. And so if you can't see this, hopefully it's large enough. These are a bunch of shotgun shells, which are just in a cup holder. And if you zoom right in, these are 12 gauge shotgun shells. Now, this was posted online, and all sorts of people had various legal theories about this. The first theory is that she can immediately be arrested for possession of a firearm without a license. Now, I don't actually know if she has a license. I suspect not. And if she does have a license, then Canadian Firearms Program, what are you doing? I am just going to assume she's got no license, but somebody else in the vehicle might, because the Canadian Firearms Program might not be aware of everybody there. And it's going to be impossible to prove this particular issue, because somebody's taking this picture, and an unlicensed person can be in possession of a firearm in Canada so long as they're under the direct and immediate supervision of a licensed person. And we can't tell if that's the photographer here or not. So I don't think that they're going to be able to make out a conviction for possession of a firearm without a license here. And a lot of people had opinions as to this is illegal transport. And they said, no, listen, this gun has to be locked up in the lower compartments. This gun's got to have a trigger lock. This gun can't be in the front seat. All of which is incorrect, because the standard for transportation of a non-restricted firearm in Canadian law is that it's unloaded. That's it, and that it's not transported in a careless fashion. You're not going to be able to make that out here, because that shotgun is cased, assuming that is a shotgun in there, which I think is a reasonable conclusion to draw. And, the ammunition in the cup holder, that's actually fairly common. I mean, especially if people are out doing, various activities, they might keep ammunition like that. You can't store ammunition or firearms in those fashions, but there's different laws that apply to storage versus transport. And so this particular Twitter thread, and I'm not going to link it here because I don't want people going and, hassling these people, but it has all sorts of experts with all sorts of opinions, most of which are wrong. There's some person who's going on about these are 10 gauge shotgun shells because they're green. Well, you don't look at the color to determine the gauge of a shotgun shell. You look at the head stamp, and the head stamp of these clearly says 12 gauge. All sorts of people with various theories about, the firearms laws, and most of them are wrong. So the question somebody asked me is, oh, well, does that just mean that there's nothing that they can do? And I mean, I guess the first question is, why would the police want to do something? Well, as mentioned, this is a very weird situation. I want to avoid using, pejoratives, but I don't know if this is a situation of mental illness or if this is a situation of some sort of extended scam. I don't know what's going on. And mental illness in and of itself is not necessarily a reason to intervene. Canadian law recognizes that there may be people who have a mental illness, but where it's managed and where they can still lawfully possess firearms. So, but the issue is she's not just weird. She's weird in ways where she's, threatening to execute people, and, where her followers are engaged in activities against the police for no reason whatsoever. So this is really kind of a textbook example of a situation where the police might be able to actually do something about this and to take steps. Canadian law has a whole bunch of sort of tools in the toolbox for the police to deal with this. And one of the issues here, or one of the potential things that they could use, and I'll just bring this up. So this is section 117.04 sub 1 of the Criminal Code of Canada. Now, lots of people were bringing up all sorts of things that might be hunting regulations, but I'm not going to look at the hunting regulations just first because I'm not certain what province this is in, and hunting regulations differ from province to province. And second, we don't really need to. All of the powers that are necessary are right within the Criminal Code. So this section is titled Application for Warrant to Search and Seize, where, pursuant to an application made by a peace officer, and they define peace officer, but it includes the police, with respect to any person, a justice is satisfied by information on oath that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the person possesses a weapon, a prohibited device, ammunition, prohibited ammunition, or an explosive substance in a building, receptacle, or place, and that it is not desirable in the interest of the safety of the person or of any other person for the person to possess the weapon, prohibited device, ammunition, prohibited ammunition, or explosive substance. The justice may issue a warrant authorizing the peace officer to search the building, receptacle, or place, and seize any such thing and any authorization, license, or registration certificate relating to any such thing that is held by or in the possession of the person. So there's a whole lot to break down here. Some people have said, listen, you don't know that that's a shotgun in that case, or that that's a firearm at all in that case. I think that there's reasonable grounds to believe that there is a firearm in that case. That doesn't mean that it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Certainly, there could be anything in there. It could be a fishing rod. It could be a length of pipe. It could be empty. It could be stuffed with tissue. Any of these things. But we don't actually need to know what's in the case to trigger this, because all we need is to believe that they have ammunition. And I think that there's definitely reasonable grounds to believe that there's ammunition in that vehicle, because we see it in the cup holder. It's clearly unexpended. It is clearly 12 gauge. And unless there's some unusual circumstance of this being like film fakes or something along those lines, and, reasonable grounds isn't absolute proof. It's just a reasonable basis to believe this. So they could go to a justice and say, listen, we don't think it's desirable in the interests of safety of the person, which would be Ms. Digilo in this case, or of any other person. So they don't need it to be Ms. Digilo. They can say, hey, listen, her and her followers have tried to arrest the police without any grounds, and so we don't think it's good that they're rolling around with with a firearm or with ammunition. And that allows for a warrant to search and seize those things. Now, there's also a provision for search and seizure without a warrant. And so this is a situation where they have the belief that it's not desirable that the person possesses those things, but by reason of a possible danger to the safety of that person or of any other person, it would not be practicable to obtain a warrant, search for and seize any of these things. Now, in this case, I think that they should probably apply for a warrant because they don't have any sort of immediacy here. But I mean, if this was a situation where this van was parked outside and they're trying to arrest police officers, they'd probably be at the situation of immediacy in the sense of it's not practicable to obtain a warrant because they're in the middle of doing weird things, that they shouldn't be doing. Now, if that happens, they are required to return this to a justice and explain what they seized and why. This is basically an after-the-fact warrant application if there was no warrant. But if there was a warrant, then they have to say, listen, we actually executed this warrant you gave. Here's the stuff we seized. This also has the effect of revoking any licenses and authorizations that they're seizing. So if there is somebody with a firearms license who's rolling around with them, they're very much putting their firearms license at risk. This is not, if you are a gun owner, maybe this is not a group to associate with, just, saying. And there is plenty of case law out there that notes that, if you're a gun owner and you associate with and sort of lend your firearms to causes that are not great causes, you can absolutely lose your guns for this. So, and then there's an application for disposition process, which allows for them to, if they've seized things, to then bring those things in front of a court and say, they shouldn't get those things back. We want to keep these. And if there is a finding that it is not desirable in the interest of the safety of any person, that this person should have, the weapon, prohibited device, ammunition, etc., then the justice shall, and that's shall if they make the finding, right? They don't necessarily have to make the finding, but first is order that anything seized be forfeited to Her Majesty or be otherwise disposed of, and B, where the justice is satisfied that the circumstances warrant such an action, order that the possession of by that person of any weapon, prohibited device, ammunition, prohibited ammunition, and explosive substance, or of any such thing, be prohibited during any period not exceeding 5 years that is specified in the order. This is a provision that allows for an issue of a firearm ban that goes forward and says you can't possess these things, not just now, but also for a period of up to 5 years. So this is a very powerful set of provisions. It's often used against people who are having sort of a depressive moment. But when we think about it, I mean, somebody who's going around trying to do things like arrest the police and threaten people with execution seems maybe like a higher level of seriousness. When you think of who shouldn't have firearms, yeah, this is kind of weird. This is kind of threatening and dangerous behavior. So this is what this provision is for. So all of the people who are going, because there were several people who, when I said, listen, I don't think that I can necessarily make out a crime here. Lots of people are going, oh, so it's okay then. I'm like, well, no, there's lots of tools here that they can use. If you're a gun owner associating yourself with this movement, I really, really strongly, talk to a lawyer because you're putting yourself in potential peril. This is a situation where you absolutely need to talk to a lawyer before the police figure out what you're up to, because, yeah. Now, apparently the reports are that Ms. Digilo and her crew have gone basically radio silent since this, that they are not posting their usual videos and, content, talking about how they're, going around working on Her Royal, Majesty's orders. Well, that's probably a good idea. I'm guessing the police didn't need to watch this video. There's going to be people going, oh, you're giving tips. The police already know about all this, guys. This is This is part of their toolkit. They know this stuff. So what I'm guessing has probably happened is the police are probably also of the same opinion on this one, and they may well already have this warrant. They might already be looking around now to go, let's find Ms. Digilo and her vehicles, and let's search those, and maybe not have them rolling around with a firearm, if indeed that's what's in the case. So I thought I'd talk about this one, both to just kind of explain what's going on here and explain the difference in terms of the legal complexities around this. There are tools in the toolbox. This is a situation that the Canadian law is already well equipped to deal with. And the reason why I mention this is because you may actually see this scenario, this particular thing, mentioned in future as a reason to justify more, gun laws, more gun restrictions. We need this because Ms. Digilo, noted weirdo, is driving around with a shotgun with ammunition. And that would be a lie. That would just be dishonest because we already can deal with this. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Let me know in the comments if you've got any further sort of questions on this one. I'm sure I'm going to get some people who are angry that I am not treating Her Royal Majesty with the respect she's due. And frankly, you're wrong about that one. I am treating her with more respect than she's due. Yeah, I don't know what the heck. I don't know why anybody follows her. And yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching this one. Thank you as well to my Patreon supporters at the $50 level, Canada's National Firearms Association, the CCFR, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. At the $30 level, Sights and Arms Limited. And at the $20 level, Mark, Jane Babe and Luxor, Haywire, Dale Nesbitt, Cameron Johnson, Bruno R., Andrew Elsich, and Vicky. Thank you as well to the $10 supporters who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching. I hope this has armed you with knowledge, and see you next time. Also, let me know if I should change up the outro music. I still kind of like it, but it's kind of good to do something different every now and again, so let me know your thoughts on that in the comments as well. Anyway, see you next time.